Hello, hello, and welcome into Proving Grounds. It is week 3, day 4, the final day of Best of Threes. I am so excited to be here alongside one Sam Cage and the Rage Ragey. Sam, it is always good to be able to cast with you.
Magical, I feel like they keep pairing us together. I don't know why they do it. I specifically say in my contract not to do it again, but it keeps happening. So here we are. You're wearing your cloud jacket. I'm wearing some opposing red. And we're going to have some lower bracket quarterfinals today, Magical.
Yeah, we are. I am so excited to see how these teams are going to be able to match up together because we have been seeing a lot of this bout back and forth between these teams. But before we do any of that, we do have to kind of run through the previous days and what led us to this day into this quarterfinals matchup into the lower brackets. Because yesterday, we actually got to see the winners brackets and that side of things. And it started off with Cloud9 Academy proving why they are the first seed.
Definitely showing something in the Proving Grounds. They were able to take away a pretty clean game 1, but dare I say, Magical, not the best game 2 out of this team.
Okay, not the best played game 2, but probably one of the more fun game 2s to watch. We can all agree on that one, but, you know, before we get into that fiesta and get to see a little bit of preview, you get to see the peak of when Cloud9 Academy are actually, like, on form and how good they look.
Their team fighting has always been excellent. Their ability to take objectives is great. But in game 2, the faults of this team really start to show through. They get caught out. There's some miscoordination. You can see the kill count at 36 minutes, 33 to 27. What could have possibly happened? If you missed yesterday, be sure to check the VOD out. It was a match to behold.
Yeah, I believe it was TJ and Iberia casting those two, and it was amazing to try to listen to them justify what was going on in that second game. But that wasn't the only best of 3 that we got to watch yesterday. No Org being able to take down Evil Genius's Prodigy. They are looking like the strongest not Academy team that we have in this entire Proving Grounds.
And even against Academy teams, they've shown themselves to be very worthwhile opponents, and that's going to make a really exciting winners bracket final. But honestly, this game against EGP, it looked like a completely dominant performance. There was nothing that EGP, who've been shining so well in this tournament and over the last couple of months, they didn't look like they were doing anything. They looked like they were completely outclassed.
And that was the thing. Like, we go into this, and EGP had looked so good, even though the 12th seed. It seemed like they might have been able to at least hold their own against No Orgs, but they just didn't have that. No Org continue their run in the winners brackets, being the only amateur team alongside EGP. But they're the only ones in the winners bracket going up against the only Academy team in that winners bracket as well, the first seed in Cloud9 Academy.
So really seeing the best of amateur versus the best of Academy, and those will be best of 5s, Magical. From after today, it's nothing but the incredible amount of games. It's going to be a lot of endurance on all the teams involved, and I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be really exciting.
As am I, Sam, but that is for later. That's April 22nd. Make sure you tune in there. We got to get into the lower bracket, what we got prepared today, and what we need to be able to get through. We already mentioned before, and we alluded, the final best of 3s are going to be played today between TSM Academy and FlyQuest Academy to start it off, and then 100 Thieves Academy and Golden Guardians Academy, one of those teams that were definitely a surprise coming into this one because they had a really rough spring split over in the Academy season.
And 100 Thieves, conversely, had a really great run in the regular season. They were able to get 3rd place. They showed up, and they even brought Luger in. I believe it was week 3. He played 4 games, I believe, and was able to show so much promise. But as these tournaments have gone on, Magical, I start to feel a bit of rockiness. This meta not really suiting them as well as it suited Golden Guardians, who've been coming up so much in the last month.
Exactly, and it's always an awesome story to be able to tell when you see a team really start to come together. But that is for the second matchup. That's going to be later on today. We got to go through the first one. We got to go through TSM Academy and FlyQuest Academy to start it all off. TSM Academy are a team that had to play in a lot of the tier 1s themselves, having finished kind of low towards the standings, while FlyQuest Academy didn't have to do that. They had the luxury of being able to immediately qualify into the Proving Grounds, but TSM Academy have been looking like a really strong team so far.
They really have shown a lot of team fighting prowess, and I feel like especially Babip has really stepped up a lot. You can see the differences that's been happening throughout. You can see the goal difference at 15. FlyQuest were 6th place in the regular season, find themselves losing a lot of the early games more often than not, but they're still in this tournament because the meta is so focused on that post 15-minute team fight, and I feel like both these teams excel at those fights, and it's going to be a really exciting best of 3, Magical.
Exactly, and that's really going to be the name of the game. If TSM Academy can beat FlyQuest early enough to stop them from being able to get to that mid to late game, but that's also going to come a lot down to that bot lane, I think. We were already talking about that a bit. You kind of talked about jungles, but I really want to focus on Kodi-san, on Tomo, because these two have definitely been the stars for each of their rosters.
Both of those ADs have really shown up a lot, and I feel Cody Sun really starting to find his groove on this team. He had a bit of a rough transition here and there, but now that we're into this part of the tournament, and especially over the last couple tournaments, he's just looked really good. He's putting out a lot of damage. Tomo as well, looking like that really, really strong newer AD to come in, show up with his support, and I gotta say, more often than not in these bot lanes, these stats look good, but the supports have really been impressing me in this tournament, Magical.
Exactly. Not enough light gets shown onto the supports, and Your Son Dreams honestly have been so impressive. Each of them playing a very similar playstyle. They love to rotate around the map, really be able to impact things, but it's a bit different for the side of TSM Academy. You can see from the first blood percentage how many times that Your Son is a part of the first bloods for the team to make sure they're getting ahead, because they always like to play for that first gank bot lane, then Your Son rotates around. While Dreams doesn't need to have that. Really just wants to immediately move around the map, gain control of vision to make plays elsewhere.
And one thing I like about these two supports in particular, Yursand loves to play the hard engage. And the entire time he's been playing on this patch, he loves Alistar, he loves Rel, he loves these picks that allow him to get in the middle of fights and stay tanky the entire time. Dreams, on the other hand, while he can play the Rel, and you can see that on the background of that picture there, he also plays the disengage pretty well. He can play the Gragas, he can play the Thresh, and he can really balance out a lot of different things. So I feel that gives FlyQuest Academy a little bit more versatility in this matchup, but it's not necessarily favored towards the current meta, which is the hard engage, which is the roaming, and it's going to come down to who can play it out better.
Exactly. Though I will say, FlyQuest Academy already to it that this meta, even if maybe the supports don't necessarily favor the side of Dreams just because Your Son loves to play those hard engage, the whole identity that they tend to go for, which is more of the team fight, has been what they've really been able to work towards.
Yeah, it's really just been a team effort on both sides. I feel like TSM Academy especially has shown just so much promise and so much ability to play around that post 15-minute team fight that they're going to really come into this game hard, and they're going to be drafting very, very well coming into this.
Yeah, and the thing is, this whole tournament is on 11-6. At least so far, we've been playing on one singular patch just so the teams can always be prepared on what they want to be able to go for. But that also means that this identity for this meta has really been locked in since day one. Not much has really changed. Sure, you could see occasionally a couple different picks here and there, but that's usually more dependent on what the bans tend to be. If you're trying to really hit at the champion pool itself, or if you're just trying to take away the strong meta champions such as Udi or Hecarim. We've already talked about this, you and I, before the games, and saying how the jungle matchup, really, that's the only reason we're not focusing on it, is because the meta tends to be a little bit more stale.
We've definitely seen a lot of it, I'm sure. Any region that you watch in the moment still has a lot of that Udyr, Hecarim, Lily, and Nidalee, and the occasional jungle picks that deviate from that are still among the same idea, or maybe a very specialized counter, but we're not going to see those today. I think we're just going to see the standard 4, maybe an Olaf, maybe a Volibear, but we're just going to stay in our lanes. We're going to keep to the engage. We're going to turbo chem tank our way to victory, and it's going to be a real battle of the team fights between these two teams.
Hey, we could see a maybe Nocturne jungle, even though we've been seeing it a bit more top lane, a bit more mid lane. There is always potential, and that's something I do like to see, are flexible picks and what you try to do with these early into the draft, whether or not you want to be able to move them around. And honestly, for each side, I feel like they can do that.
They can definitely do that, but it'll all come down to the draft, which we will be switching over to right now. Look at that.
Yeah. Oh, and we're already pretty deep into it. FlyQuest, oh man, there's that Gnar ban. I was wondering if they were going to ban it that fast. Same with the Renekton, though. I thought the Renekton might get through and they would choose that for Kumo, since we knew that Gnar was going to be banned. There's no way that Kumo wants to go up against Haunter's Gnar.
No, because Haunter has really been showing up. Yesterday, or 2 days ago, I believe it was, he got a pentakill.
Yes, he did.
In his series, and that was something to watch. I feel like there was a second pentakill for Cody Sun, even though it wasn't official. I think Kangas called it, but you know what? We're still going to give it to him. And Haunter, if he gets the matchup he wants, he is looking a lot more dominant in the last couple weeks than Kumo has been, even though Kumo, as a solid top laner, usually pulls out advantages. It just hasn't been the case in this tournament.
Not yet, at least. But right now, pretty deep into the picks already. We're seeing pretty standard lock-ins. Hecarim, Udyr, that's what we said. If they're not focusing onto the jungle bans, they're probably going to lock those in. They're just shaking hands, being like, okay, we're going to go for a bit of the power clear into our jungles. The Tristana, though, I am happy to see that FlyQuest grabbed this for Tomo. In some of the other drafts, we've actually been seeing that kind of fall down to the wayside a little bit. Teams not necessarily putting as high a priority onto her, but she is incredibly strong still, especially for what FlyQuest like to do, which is be more of that team fight composition.
It is definitely one of those top picks, and I like the Gragas complimenting it as well. That could be a flex pick for either Kumo or Dreams, depending on how they choose to finish out the draft. Sword hovering the Akali, I don't think that's going to go through. Instead, going to be going for the Xayah. Makes more sense, so Cody Sun can stay safe on, I think it's his third most picked in this tournament. It's behind Kai'Sa and Tristana.
I believe so as well. It's usually one of those things where Kai'Sa being banned, of course you want to go for the Xayah, something that's not necessarily going to be able to beat Tristana in lane, but going to be able to keep up with her into that mid to late game. Something that's also got safe innate peel for herself. So then that allows your son to play the style he likes to, which is that hard engage. When you have Cody Sun on something that can be independent, doesn't require to have your son kind of hold his hand and be like, okay, I'm gonna help you out. Boom, you grab Xayah. Featherstorm works so well for how TSM tend to like to play. Now into the second part of the bans. Azir taken away from Triple, one of his most played. He loves that champion as well. I'm actually surprised it's the Twisted Fate ban and not the Victor ban, because Triple tends to like to play that a lot, especially since right now we're seeing Orianna left up, another one of those picks that we could easily see Sword pick up, since that is one of the go-tos for both these mid laners.
Well, since we are getting into, I believe, TSM's pick after this, I feel like Sword wants to take the Orianna away and maybe force Triple onto the Syndra, which he has played. It's not his most comfortable pick, but it definitely takes him off of his most comfortable picks, which are that Victor, the TF, the Azir, and the Orianna.
But look at that top lane focus coming in from FlyQuest. 4 bans at Haunter, trying their damnedest to make sure it is the best matchup possible for Kumo. And with the Seraphine, that is going to be for Sword. I wonder if Triple is going to opt in to that Orianna just to be able to wave clear, or maybe try to play a little bit more aggressively into it. Maybe Lucian could be an option, but the Orianna just seems to make more sense with the composition already drafted by the rest of FlyQuest.
They already have the team fight set up. They got the disengage as well with the Gragas. And with that, I do like the Seraphine pick for Sword. I feel like although it's not his strongest, and certainly his performances on Seraphine have been questionable, it still fits in with the rest of the comp. They just need a strong enough carry in the top lane to make up for this. And Haunter, definitely the player you want on a strong carry.
Yeah, and I'm an idiot. Victor was banned in the first rotation. Didn't even notice it. I see it now. I'm like, wait, that's why they didn't ban it. Duh. So
fair enough.
Orianna is, it's a safe pick going up against the Seraphine. And same with going for Orange, something that can be safe blind into whatever Haunter wants to draft for himself. Gangplank is something that Haunter does favor, often whenever not on Gnar, not on this Renekton. But usually it's more of the counter into the Gnar. Well, counter, I say, because it's more of a skill matchup into Gnar when you try to grab that. But this is something that allows Haunter to have a lot more agency, especially into how both teams want to seem to play this game, especially for FlyQuest, answering them, saying, we are willing to play this mid to late game and try to be able to beat you there.
I do like the scaling coming out of FlyQuest more than anything. The Ornn allows for a safer lane. It's not necessarily the hard carry or even an answer to the 4-1 that's going to come out of Haunter, but it does allow for the extra items with the forging. It does allow for a teamfight engage, and it does allow for even an extra Orianna delivery system if need be. I feel like this 5-man composition coming in from FlyQuest versus the 4-1 of TSM is going to be pretty effective. It just depends on how Dreams is able to get in early and perhaps even get the tanky items he needs in order to survive long enough against the likes of Cody Sun, Babip, and Haunter.
So the only thing I'm not necessarily too sold so far on the side of TSM with their composition is having the Seraphine. While she can dish out a pretty decent amount of damage, it is something that can fall off into the late game, and it is much more of that secondary support tool that you can utilize to be able to help out Cody Sun, help out Haunter, be the damage source, which means that if you build enough magic resist on the side of FlyQuest, this Seraphine for Sword isn't really going to be able to have that same punch, not really going to be able to do too much against them, since that's the only source they can really rely on. And honestly, you don't even have to build much. You have to have just like a component for most of your other armor items to really stop Sword from being a menace.
I was about to say, you really just build armor in this situation. The Ornn draft really makes a lot of sense here for Kuma, because now he can just build pure armor. He doesn't have to worry about the ganks. Maybe Sword comes up on the top side, but Seraphine damage is never going to be enough to deal with the health that Ornn already builds in those armor items. And if he gets a single MR item, whether that's the Spirit Visage or even an Abyssal Mask or something like that, he can just do so much damage, and he's going to be able to tank up the entirety of TSM Academy's lineup.
So it's funny. I was just looking at my notes really quick. And it's funny that NXI is the one to play Hecarim and Babip is the one to play Udyr, since it's the opposite of who's played that champion the most. It's been NXI playing a lot more Udyr during this tournament and only having, I think, a single game in this tournament, at least, on the Hecarim, while Babip has been all about that Hecarim, barely being able to really get that.
I think teams have really been favoring Hecarim, especially on blue side, just because it is that late game team fighting, which many teams in this tournament have shown they love to do. And with that pick, he's able to do so much in this game, but we'll have to see how he plays it out because we are into game one, Magical, of FlyQuest Academy versus TSM Academy, lower bracket quarterfinals.
It's exciting. They want to be able to take this first game, and especially because when you look at how a lot of these games have worked out, FlyQuest Academy, they've either gotten 2-0'd or have 2-0'd. There hasn't been any if, ands, or buts throughout this Proving Grounds. Before, it's funny. We look at how they played in Arena of Legends, and all they would do is lose the first game, then win the next two. They constantly were able to do that. But this time around, it seems that they've figured out how to win and lose fast. It's all about trying to be able to get the 2-0s and move on through the tournament.
Well, hopefully they'll be able to go that way, but I don't think it's going to be easy. Both of these teams very, very close in terms of seeding, very, very close in terms of team play style. They definitely both like to fight around dragons at around the 20-minute mark, but something I've noticed in my notes, Magical, both these teams really seem to question what to do around the 12-minute mark, the 12 to like 18-minute mark. Very, very low point for both FlyQuest Academy and TSM Academy because the shot calling is just a little bit iffy because the objectives may not be spawning at proper times, and usually both teams are going to give up a lot around that period of time.
You're hoping that these teams start to learn a lot more that as they continue through this tournament, right? We continue through Proving Grounds. Each game is a learning lesson. If you have a little bit of a stumble, a little bit of hiccup, you figure out what the mistake was and you fix it so that you continue to move on. And since they are both this far into the tournament, they've clearly been able to learn from some of those mistakes, trying to move forward, trying to see if they can continue their journey to go up against Evil Geniuses Academy in the next round. But obviously, they have to take down this opponent first.
And they're in position to do so. It looks like both teams have set up. Not really anything to talk about in terms of runes or builds or anything. It all looks pretty standard, but you have to look at the jungle pathing early on. Both NXI and Babip has started the top side, which indicates they're trying to look towards that bot lane that we focused on as our featured matchup. Both of these teams love to play through Tomo and Cody-san, and when Yursan and Dreams get unlocked, they can both do incredible things when they start the roam.
And that's what we said. That's exactly as we had highlighted before with the help of Mobalytics to really be able to show you all those awesome stats, is that they like to play around this bot lane, which is unusual to say, oh, they play around the supports. It's playing around unlocking the supports, getting them elsewhere, moving around the map, and then having Tomo, Cody-san be on an island 1v1 against one another, since it is going to be a bit safer in this ADC pool that they've each chosen for themselves. But we're not looking at that just yet. We're going to wait a minute. It's probably going to be soon. The top lane, when I focus on this, and poor Kumo, not really going to be able to do much. It's the tank into Gangplank, getting a bit of damage on them, which is nice, and denying that barrel to deny a bit of extra damage that could have happened.
It denies the barrel, but this is mostly going to be a safe lane in the top side, which is why both junglers focus towards the bot. And I like this play out of Tomo and Dreams, even though they
Look
have
at
the
that
jungler.
position, though, from Yursan. I loved that. He was making sure that he hung around just outside of vision, so just in case NXI showed up, they have a very easy way to escape.
They did. Definitely the ability of pushing out a wave early gives you the positioning that you need. So Cody-san, Yursan playing that very, very well. And Babip, unable to reach the bot side, instead goes mid and allows Sword to get an early back and an early teleport, just because I believe he was low on mana.
Yeah, it's a bit hard, though. Look at this. 2v2.
Oh,
They're going to be able to get the Blade Caller. Tomo's ignited and dies to first blood. Cody-san able to win the 2v2. Dreams forced away from the fight.
Just too much disrespect coming out of FlyQuest Academy. You saw how forward Tomo was, and Yursan capitalizes immediately with a great team play with Cody-san.
And this is something that we were even wondering if Cody-san was going to be able to show up into the spot lane. Well, Tomo wanted to be able to flex some might and muscle in the bot lane. Unfortunately, it's up against a really difficult task in Cody-san and Yursan, who proved that they are stronger at the moment, especially now that they've gotten this massive CS lead. You take a look at this replay, and I'm just wondering why Tomo wanted to go into
Whoa. Yeah, that was way too aggressive. Jumping right into the fight, it just doesn't work if you're against a Xayah and against a Rel. There's so much CC that can go down. There's so much damage available, even at level 2, that you're going to lose that fight 100% if you jump into the feathers.
Yeah, I'm a bit confused by that one out of Tomo. I think it was maybe a bit of jitters, maybe wanting to prove himself against Cody-san, player that's been to Worlds, been able to show himself off and how skilled he is. But it just didn't work out. Now falling into a deficit, into a bad spot that could, just based off that play, we talked about how Yursan likes to be able to rotate around the map. Well, you got an early kill onto your ADC, you're not as needed into this bot lane anymore.
Well, the good news for FlyQuest Academy is they still have a lot of jungle presence towards the bot side, so maybe they'll be able to get this dragon started up. Maybe they'll be able to push the lane a little bit harder. But BIP is making that not happen, but at the very least, the idea is there for FlyQuest Academy.
NXI was even hanging around just in case that Cody's son and your son overstayed their welcome. They're playing this one cautiously and wise, not wanting to step out of line, understanding there's a massive minion wave. There's no reason to push too far forward and get yourself caught out by a Hecarim that you know is near the bot lane.
You definitely don't want to be pushing out to no vision. You definitely don't want to be pushing out when your jungler is back. You can see Babip already taking the back, trying to get some items and maybe get the early advantage on this dragon. But for the most part, I feel like NXI is taking the bottom. He's found his spot. He's parked his car, his RV, as you might say, and he's setting up camp. He's just going to be there until that dragon goes down.
But I want to see if he's actually going to break out the bread and actually do something into the bot lane, because right now, nothing's really happening there. Instead, he's just hanging around the campfire, kind of staring at it, wondering what he actually can do if he wants to make toast or not.
Not making toast yet, but Kumo, he sends the ram out.
Zoning ult.
More of a warning sign.
Yeah. Pretty much just saying, nah, please don't gank me. Don't dive me underneath the turret. I'm okay. I mean, it would have been really difficult for Haunter by himself anyways, but now Haunter's gotten a bit of free time and has Cannon Barrage, so now you don't even need to really be anywhere. He's already used TP to make sure that he can keep a lead over Kumo, and that forces Kumo to try to use that TP topside as well to be able to compete against Haunter, and as the Ornn into Gangplank matchup, that means that it's always going to be an uneven fight now for FlyQuest.
FlyQuest really put themselves in a difficult position right now, but as I say that,
yeah, Bob will be able to get out of there. It looks like he put himself in a bad position.
Yep.
But able to use his little legs and giddy up on out of there. No run send job done today. Instead, he's just gonna kind of steal a little vision away from NXI. Not even get himself a buff, but he maintains a bit of a camp lead over Hecarim.
I don't think I would ever call Udir's legs little. I mean, he has to support a pretty large dude, and quite honestly, all he does is run around. You have to feel those legs are looking pretty summer
It's an old
fit.
model, man. It is an old model. Have you seen them pizza feet? It's more feet than it is legs.
That's true. At the same time, I just kind of think of the canonic, you know, the idea that I have in my mind of a man that runs around all day must have good legs. In-game, maybe not quite the reality that you'd envision, but at the same time, I like to be optimistic when it comes to Udyr.
You know, I kind of have my own headcanon too. I saw that one Reddit post about Grug as being an omnipotent god, and I can't get that out of my head. So I know what you mean. Right now, FlyQuest, looking like they got a little bit of omnipotent vision themselves as they take away vision around the dragon to get that. Well, but Bip is going to make the trade. He's just going to take Rift Herald, and we actually got to see in the stats before that this is a play that tends to go the way that TSM like to. They always grab themselves this Rift Herald over going for the early dragon, so that way they can utilize that to crack some turrets, get a lot of plate gold for the mid game that they tend to play around.
And with that, I mean, FlyQuest are playing more aggressively than we've seen them play at Magical. Usually they'll give up the first dragon or two, and there's just something missing there. Now they're able to put a lot of effort into the bot side. It somewhat pays off. It's an objective trade, but at least you get the objective out of it. In TSM Academy, you could argue that they get more out of it. They'll be able to do a lot in the mid game, but this shows initiative on FlyQuest, and I think that's a huge improvement from what we've seen in previous tournaments.
Well, it's always one of those trades, right? The dragon is more trying to be able to scale up towards that late game. The earlier you get these dragons, the closer you start getting towards the soul. Well, Rift Herald is about being able to get these plates early, getting turrets early, so that way you have enough gold in the mid game to try to win out, which fits into the exact function that each team try to build themselves around and how they tend to play throughout this Proving Grounds. One for the mid, one for the late.
It's really just a dichotomy, but at the same time, they're so similar. Right? You have FlyQuest, you have TSM, they're both playing for the mid game, they're both trying to get to late game team fights as fast as possible, and you could see TSM, they're even setting up this early game play with Babip in the bot side.
But it's also diving onto Agragas. Doesn't matter if he's only level 5, it's such a difficult lane to try to gank. He can always disengage so easily and be able to keep Tomo so safe, so long as they are the ones that are eating and absorbing the gank, right?
Mm-hmm. It's going to be just so difficult. You could see him backing off immediately because of the empowered recall. He can get away with that without losing too much, and in fact, finds himself up about 10 CS.
Oh, Monster, gotta be careful.
Oh, no.
Gets the fear, gets the double knock up, and gets the kill over for Kumo.
Wow, good play coming out of FlyQuest Academy, recognizing Hanser was too far up in the lane, and also seeing the CC potential out of NXI and Kumo's ults combined really gave no option for Hanser. He didn't even use flash. I think that was the right call. There was nothing you could do in that situation.
Completely agree with you there, Sam. There's no reason to flash. You're dead. You're not going to survive there. And I like that gank from NXI, going for the lane gank, because we talked about that vision that Bob was able to secure for himself earlier on. Even if the invade didn't net a blue buff, it netted a lot of control. Look at how there's 2 control wards that are hanging out. One right outside of the blue buff, one right behind it. So that way, whenever NXI is topside, Hunter feels confident that he can step up, feels like he's allowed to actually move forward. But in reality, you can't ever discount that NXI might go for that lane gank, and that's exactly what ended up happening. So Babip trying to make a trade by popping the eye into mid lane to be able to get Sword a little bit more gold.
Triple's going to be there immediately. It is a couple plates for Sword, so that's at the very least an advantage gained. But Hanser realizes now that he's on a timer. If there's another gank, he's going to be in a ton of trouble. Kumo's already building up the armor. He's got the Bramble Vest. He's going to be getting those steel caps pretty darn soon. And once the Keystone or the Mythic item is completed, it's going to be so difficult for Gangplank to ever do damage to Ornn. He's always going to lose that matchup. He's just going to be basically sending CS at Kumo to collect,
Sam?
and it's not going to go well. What up?
Hey, Sam?
What?
Why isn't Ohm-Wrecker a mythic item?
Hey, Magical.
Yeah?
Are we still talking about items that don't exist in the game?
Best item ever. 100% win rate. Anyways, Shockwave was used mid lane by Triple just to be able to force off Sword. He wants to be able to get a cheeky recall here, I think, or maybe even get a plate. Just a little bit of an advantage to force off Sword, but I still don't know if I necessarily agree with using the Shockwave like that so soon.
Yeah.
You know, I get you want to be able to get an early enough recall to buy that Mythic, since you have about a minute and a half until the dragon is going to spawn, and you want to be able to have at least a little bit of an advantage, be able to get yourself towards that Mythic item to have a little bit more power for the ensuing team fight that it seems that FlyQuest are trying to set up.
I think it's really just putting pressure onto Sword, forcing his own recall. You can see that Triple's already up in the lane. Yes, it's going to force the TP, but then you have a Summoner spell that's just down. Sword going to have to do something in order to get the lane in his position, and at the moment, hasn't taken the recall yet, is still behind, probably still has enough gold to buy something at the very least, probably not enough for the Moonstone Renewer, but
I like this from
enough to
Triple,
make something
though. Look at this. Look at this positioning to force off Sword, and this is kind of why when I saw the Seraphine, I was expecting to see something maybe aggressive. Triple does like to play Lucian sometimes, and so that's why I thought maybe you try to go for the kill threat. Instead, just wanted to be able to go for the handshake into lane phase. Once you have a little bit of a lead, Sword does not have the damage to be able to do anything to Triple, and but Pip not going to really have the damage either. So Triple can stand right in front of those minions and force off Sword. The supportive style not really going to be able to thwart and stop Triple from pushing up and then rotating around to maintain that vision control they've already set up around the Dragon Pit.
There's a lot of vision, yes, but we have to talk about the lane priority in the bot side, specifically this play.
I like this play a lot better than the last time we saw from FlyQuest. They're going to be able to get the root onto Dreams and force out a TP, but Triple is here. Shockwave on top of Sword. They've got a lot of damage, and NXI is going to be able to show up. Encore going to be on top of him, flashed away with the heal, with Onslaught of Shadows into the backline to be able to get the kill onto Sword. The Pip trying to run stun, job done onto Triple, but he flashes away to be able to get away. It's a 1-for-1 trade. FlyQuest like this play because they can continue to force back in TSM Academy towards their turret and then immediately rotate for this dragon.
The one problem was Dreams was a little bit early. He was there before Triple was there. NXI wasn't in the area quite yet. It was just too aggressive, and they give up the 1-for-1. They do get the dragon in the end, but it feels like that play could have been a little tighter, a little cleaner out of FlyQuest Academy. TSM, though, no real answer to that. They just kind of collapse with Babip, and they have Hanser's ult as well with the Cannon Barrage. It's not enough to really save it, but it is enough to make it even at the very least.
Exactly, and like you said, Dreams just a little too early on the draw. We needed to wait a bit longer, but I feel like he just thought Kodiyo-san was so far out that he could go for that play.
Yep, and you can see Tomo just completely zoned out by the Sword teleport. I like Triple. Even though that ult was only on to 1, it's the same ult that you need in that situation, so NXI can go in and finish off the kill. And Triple, he continues to zone. There's not a lot Babip can do from then on. He's just kind of in the middle. Udyr kind of is like that. If you don't have the play already set up for yourself, you're not going to accomplish a whole lot.
But still, I like that at least FlyQuest are being proactive. They net themselves their second dragon of the game 2 away from being able to get the soul, and it is going to be a mountain soul. And since there's really, if you look at the composition built up by TSM, they have a decent amount of damage, but it is going to be later into the game. If you get an early mountain soul, it's going to be difficult for TSM to tackle a lot of these tanks that are on the side of FlyQuest, or Hecarim, even Gragas is going to be so tanky with a shield on top of them as well. TSM Academy need to make sure they can deny at least the side of FlyQuest Academy from getting that soul point.
But at the same time, TSM are responding with this Rift Herald, and I feel like that's about the only play they can make. They can send it mid, they can make a 5-man push top, which looks like could be the case, Magical.
Kumo, though, 1v1 against Hanser, getting a lot of damage on top of him. He knows that the eye was taken. You could hear the shriek from Shelly as she dies there. No longer going to return onto this Rift. But still, it's a nice play coming in from Kumo. It forces out to Hanser away. So they're not going to be able to use that eye like they would have liked to, since they had 4 members, actually technically 5 members topside, to be able to immediately drop that if necessary. Right now, your son, what are you looking for? What you looking for to get?
We just wanted to see what he looked like in the bush. It turns out Rel, not really going to accomplish a whole lot, but does have a menacing presence from that position. They do pop the Rift Herald and get the mid turret. That's going to open up the map pretty significantly for TSM Academy, but FlyQuest, they still have answers of their own, and Kumo is still unanswered at the moment. Yes, he's behind in CS, but I don't feel like TSM really has a way to deal with him at the moment, and as the game goes on, those answers become harder and harder to find.
I was even gonna say, it's like, you're playing an Ornn into a Gangplank. You're behind in CS, that's the nature of the beast. But you have a kill over that Gangplank. That's a big win for the side of Ornn, and that makes it so that he can easily duel against them. He's not feeling quite so threatened into this Gangplank. Having Bramble Vest completed, already having that Bomby Cinder as well, just to clear out at least somewhat quickly, to be able to deny Hanser from getting that turret that he needs to be able to get as Gangplank.
And as he gets ever closer to the Sunfire Aegis, he's going to be able to do a lot of tanking up and even passive CSing. And the speed at which you CS on the top side really does make an impact as the game goes on, because you're able to push out the side lanes, you're able to get the teleports where you need it, and you're able to join team fights.
Shockwave onto Hanser. Hanser's still underneath this turret, but Vip wants to be able to help him out, but they gotta be so careful. Look at how fast NXI is with the Fear 2. That is a great charm, but it does not help out at all.
Nice barrel.
So bounce back into the turret, dies 2 kills to the side of FlyQuest.
And this is why I love this pick on Dreams. Look at how much he's able to accomplish on a support that isn't the top 3. He's able to get the engage he wants, he's able to disengage, and he's able to separate out the members of TSM who want to stick together so much. A great play and a great reaction coming out of FlyQuest Academy on that dive. We can see in the replay, it starts out with this Shockwave onto Hanser. They're just trying to get him as low as possible because they communicate. NXI's coming in. He's using the onslaught. He's zooming. He doesn't quite get the kill there, but it's only a matter of time because of those Mercury treads. And Dreams just follows up beautifully.
I love that explosive cast. It's always something that I kind of watch whenever I see Gragas and Orianna on the same team, because there is a bit of disenergy with their kits on how that can work, as you can separate them, bring them back together. So if you're not coordinating perfectly, you can accidentally use the explosive cask before Shockwave, knock everyone out of the Shockwave. But there, they make sure that it's already Shockwave used. They don't have to worry about that. They bounce back in, sword, easy cleanup. So now, that's Seraphine 0-2. Not really going to be as, well, of course, it is going to be support, so it's going to be used for towards Cody-san, who's 2-0 at the moment. But you need to be able to have a little bit more impact than that at the moment.
At the very least, you need to make sure your other solo lane is doing fine. And Hanser right now, although up in CS, as we talked about, 0-2 is not a good look for Gangplank, and definitely not a good look for Hanser, who looked so dominant 2 days ago when he was playing his series on Gnar. It just feels like if you're going to pick the Seraphine, you have to enable all the other carries. Otherwise, you're going to fall behind, and there's not going to be a real way to get back in the game.
Uh-oh, Death Brush Kumo. He walks forward. Tomo as well, it looks like. We got the Nay Ram here. Everyone has shown up into the mid lane. Babip taking a lot of damage on this side. They're going to be able to get Yurson jumping in with the Magus Orb and Encore combo. Finally burning down Dream. Babip not going to be Shockwave back in. Yurson barely survives the fight. But still, TSM Academy, they got the kill onto Dreams, and they can, if they want to, try to see if they can force the issue around this Dragon Pit.
And that's why we've been looking at Yurson so much, just able to find these great engages, dodging out on the Shockwave in order to get a 2-man Magnet Storm. Very good out of him. Although the health bars are low, it's going to be rough for TSM.
Babip is very low here. Have to be careful. They're trying to see if they can get Babip and NXI into a healthier state to be able to fight around this first Mountain Dragon. But neither side wants to fully commit, especially now that Dreams is back up. TSM Academy realizing that they're a bit too low. They need Babip in a better position so he's not going to be bursted down immediately.
And because we've waited so long, Dreams is already almost back to this fight. So this is going to be a 5v5 Magical if TSM decides to take it.
It's going to, at least with Dreams here now. Finally showing up. He hasn't poked his face out of the brush in that vision where TSM can actually collapse, but NXI's got to be careful. taken pretty low. They can burst him down. It's going to be the engage coming in from Dreams, but he's squishy, locked down. The Bip trying to be able to get away. They're going to kill Dreams as NXI dives into the backline. Take down the Bip, looking for Cody-san. Tomo jumps in by himself, but Sword can do nothing but flash away as Cody-san's taking a lot of damage. Dies to the shutdown coming in from Triple. Tomo over the wall, chasing down Sword, wanting to see if they can collapse with NXI, getting the fear on top of him, bouncing around Haunter 2. Shockwave on top of him. FlyQuest eviscerate TSM Academy.
And TSM just stick around way too long after winning a fight against FlyQuest Academy. They could have given up the dragon, they could have been happy, but instead, they go down, they stay with low health bars, and they wait for Dreams to respawn. They might get him again, great, but that's not going to win you the fight. What wins you the fight is getting back, having health bars, and playing as a 5-man squad. When you separate out, that's what happens. You lose a fight, you lose an objective, you might even lose the Baron, because FlyQuest are here to say they are a powerful team fighting force.
FlyQuest say to hell with getting up towards Mountain Soul Point. We don't care. When the Baron's up and we've taken down everyone besides your son, this is so easy for us to be able to have this massive advantage. Of course, it should be a trade. TSM should be able to at least get themselves the first dragon, but losing the Baron and losing a huge fight to FlyQuest Academy, where technically, I guess they got 2 kills because they were both on to Dreams, that's just not how you want to have this fight boil down.
And you can see the separation coming out between the two sides. Haunter can't get into the fight. You can see the carries just on his butt. He's not able to actually move anywhere. NXI is able to go into the fight. Irsan is also split up, and you can just see how spread out FlyQuest is able to put the team. Cody-san has nowhere to go except in the loving arms of Triple and Sword. Again, no routes of escape. Even Haunter can't help, and it's just a 4v1 at the very end to get the top laner down. Nothing that TSM could have done after the fight started.
Not at all, and now with the fact they have this Baron, this tier 1 that has been standing so resiliently for TSM Academy, finally going to fall. FlyQuest Academy going to be able to get more gold into their pockets where they can balloon a deficit that they had before that fight. They were down about 1,000 gold. Now they are up nearly 4,000.
And look at the vision that they're getting out of this play, Magical. FlyQuest Academy are just pushing on the control wards. They're pushing on the normal wards as well. And they're going to be able to get this bot turret. There's no reason to defend this if you're TSM. This is a huge risk.
Double knock-up, explosive cast. Concert trying to stand this to survive, but you just can't. They're going to be able to get the knock-up on the Bip with the follow-up fear. Bounce back around as well with the help of Cannon Minion. They have an encore with the Magnetstorm into the backline. Triple's not here just yet, so they're going to be able to get the kill onto at least NXI. Your son, his first step to come with the bomb on top of him and a killing spree for Triple.
And with that, looks like TSM once again lose a turret defending the most undefendable turret in the game, Magical. The second tier bot lane turret. I can't say I agree with that play. FlyQuest Academy capitalized well
every time.
And man, oh man, they just push on through. It's not going to be the game end just because of the death timers, but they do get an inhibitor out of it, and I think they're more than happy to get 2.
Exactly, they get 2 for themselves. FlyQuest Academy, this is a great answer coming in from them. We were wondering how they were going to be able to play against TSM Academy, who had been looking so formidable. You look at their series up against Barrage, a team that came in from the amateur circuit that was so hyped and everyone's praising as being one of those untouchable teams. Well, they were able to take them down 2-0. So going into this series, that was almost a thought that maybe it was going to be the same fate for FlyQuest Academy, but they had a lot different story that they wanted to be able to show, especially with how they bounce around with Dreams on this Gragas.
Okay, so I just want to point this out to all you League of Legends players watching at home right now, even if you don't watch League of Legends. Take this lesson to heart. If you see your turret, and it is at 1/3 health, and the enemy team has Baron, and you're denied vision in your own jungle, do not defend that turret. It is not worth it. You're gonna lose a team fight and probably a whole lot of objectives just because you made a decision that wasn't in the best nature of your team.
Especially those secondary turrets, right? These turrets are so difficult to defend because it's so easy for the enemy to be able to flank you on all sides. Then, once they get the turret, you have no escape. You're pushed back against the wall, and you have to fight or die. And unfortunately for TSM Academy, looks like they are floundering inside of their base. Another turret down to 50% health, and with the Tristana, they're going to be able to take that inhibitor turret without even a fight coming in from from TSM Academy. FlyQuest Academy, they themselves are in a great position to try to end this game early.
And look at the split, 4-1. I thought this would be TSM's strategy, but since FlyQuest have gotten such an insurmountable lead, 6,000 at 24 minutes into the game, they're just happy to take on the ability go mid, go top, take out the last inhibitor, and TSM,
Without a fight?
they can't find a way in.
No fight from TSM.
there
Finally,
it is.
they go for it, but it's too late. The call of the Forge God going to be able to get knock up onto your son with a bounce around Fear into the backline. NXI not going to be able to follow that up onto Sword. Instead, they already got the kill they needed to on Rel. They have the minions starting to pour in. It's going to be double super minions in every single lane, and TSM Academy do not have an answer.
They don't, but at least they have a little bit of time, and maybe that time makes the difference.
Shockwave onto Sword. He dies immediately. Cody-san trying to clear out the minion waves, but Tomo, he is annihilating these turrets himself. But Bip only going to get the stun onto one person as Cody-san tries to be able to get away from the fight with the Feathers Call, and it's the flash in from Haunter onto Dreams, but that's all they can get as they lost the Bip. They've lost the turrets. This game is looking over for TSM Academy. Game number 1, 26 minutes in. FlyQuest Academy will take victory.
Just an overwhelming performance coming out of the blue side this game, Magical. FlyQuest Academy, they didn't get first blood, but what they did get in exchange, man, oh man, objective after objective. NXI's focus on the bot side, genius. And the ability to capitalize on those mid lane plays, absolutely gorgeous. Wouldn't change a thing if I was FlyQuest, but on TSM's side, I feel like they weren't playing the way they normally do. Maybe that was because of the draft, the Seraphine in particular, just not being particularly effective, but Yursan just couldn't get out of lane. He was stuck the entire time babysitting Cody-san. He couldn't make the moves on other lanes, and by the time he could, the game was already in FlyQuest's favor.
Well, and it's even worse, right? Because they were able to get essentially the solo kill because of the 2v2 kill that went to Cody-san early. You thought there, Yursan's going to be able to rotate around and pack these other lanes and really help out, tag team with Bip so they can find other plays, but they just didn't have that confidence. NXI, because, as you had said, he had parked the RV and had the campsite ready, he didn't need to break out the bread. He had already the setup that he needed to from his team to be able to constantly push, and especially from triple, that made it so Sword was essentially a non-issue that allowed, instead of the support to tag team with the jungler, it was the mid laner tag team.
It was just too much to deal with after a certain point because FlyQuest Academy, they drafted well, they were able to get a strong mid laner and even into a very strong lane. So the fact that you have a mid laner in triple getting so ahead so early on means he can rotate, means he can get strength, means he can be a huge impact in these team fights. And it's great that you have the Seraphine Encore. That's fantastic that you can get that big CC, but if you don't have any damage to follow it up, it's not going to be a good team fight for you, TSM.
Not at all, but FlyQuest Academy looking strong in game number 1. They played to what their win condition always is, which are those mid to late game team fights, and they accelerated that so fast. Congratulations for them for that first victory, but it's not done yet. It's a best of 3. We're going to toss to a break. When we come back, we'll get ready for the second game and see if FlyQuest Academy can live up to that 2-0 record they've had throughout Proving Grounds.
Verizon believes everyone deserves the best. That's why we start with 5G from America's most reliable network.
Verizon 5G is next level.
Then give families plans to mix and match, so you only pay for what you need starting at $35.
You get so much more than this, a great network.
And offer the best in entertainment on select unlimited plans, like Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN Plus, as well as Discovery Plus, with a Galaxy S21 Plus 5G when you buy one. There's no reason to settle for less than the best, only from Verizon.